At night, Martinu would stand at the front of her stall and sell her puff-puff to a different set of customers, the ghosts. The dead, drawn to her by some unseen force, would come to her stall and buy puff-puff with invisible coins. They would eat in silence, and when they left, they leave behind piles of uneaten puff-puff. Martino would gather all the leftovers, clean up her stall, and prepare to sell the same puff-puff to her living customers the next morning. In a small town in western Nigeria, a young woman named Mama Tinu lives with her husband and five children. Mama Tinu and her husband are hardworking people who work day and night to ensure that their five kids are well taken care of, but all their efforts remain futile. The couple were often described by the townspeople as poor and nobody wants to associate with them. They did everything in a bid to change their poor state, but all their efforts yielded no result for years, until luck finally smiled on them on a shiny afternoon. Mama Tinu was out hawking fruit on the streets under the scorching sun when she found a young lady selling a popular snack called puff puff at a popular junction. Puff puff is a common delicacy enjoyed by many Nigerian families. The inviting smell oozing out from the puff puff was what drew Mama Tinu's attention to the puff puff girl and the crowd that surrounded her too. She moved closer to the girl and asked for one puff puff, which she sold to Mama Tinu. As she tasted the puff puff, she asked the little girl to take her to the person who makes it. The girl was reluctant at first, but when Mama Tinu lied that she would be having an event and would be needing a large supply of the delicacy, the girl's face lightened up and she quickly led the way to her house, leaving her sister to attend to the other customers. Mama Tinu enjoyed the snack as she and the puff puff girl walked side by side. When they arrived at the girl's home, Mama Tinu dropped a tray of fruit and went down on her knees. She greeted the woman. Good day, Mama. My name is Mama Tinu. I have five children, and things have been really difficult for me and my husband. I bought puff puff from your daughter, and I was amazed at how sumptuous and delicious it is. Please, ma, I am ready to do anything for you to teach me how to make this delicacy. There are no sellers around my vicinity, and I am positive that people will buy from me. The woman looked at Mama Tinu closely, unsure of how to reply to her. After a few minutes of silence, the woman introduced herself as Mama Bisi. She told Mama Tinu that she has been in the business for years, and she trained her four children with the profits she made from selling the puff puff. Mama Tinu was surprised to hear this, and her interest increased. Mama Bisi told her to come learn the ropes of the business by staying with her for 1 week. But Mama Tinu believes it shouldn't take as much time as that. She was scared of being used by Mama Bisi without learning anything. But when she got home and informed her husband, he advised her to give it a shot. As Mama Tinu goes to Mama Bisi's place to learn how to make puff puff, she finds out there are other snacks and Mama Bisi taught her every one of them. At the end of the training, the two women became friends and Mama Tinu was so thankful to her for taking her as a friend despite their age difference. A few weeks after her training, Mama Tinu did all sorts of odd jobs to gather enough funds to rent a shop and start a business. Her husband also helped her with some of the funds. Mama Bisi began to make puff puff, but she threw away most of the snacks in the first week as people were not interested in her puff puff. Mama Tinu felt so bad about this. Her friend, Mama Bisi, advised her not to give up when she complained to her. She told her to give it time. She also explained to Mama Tinu that she encountered the same thing when she started a business, but she's reaping the gains now after many years of consistency and patience. Mama Tinu listened to her and continued after a while, but the situation remained the same. A few weeks later, her business began to thrive and she was very, very happy. Barely a few months after starting her puff puff and snacks business, Mama Bisi became the queen of puff puff in her area and people flocked to her stall every morning and evening, eager to get a taste of her puff puff. It was said that her puff puff was the best in town and everyone wondered What her secret ingredient was. Mama Tinu continued to grow day by day, and her family situation changed for the better in no time. The family was able to build a small bungalow where they lived as one big happy family. Mama Tino did not pay attention to any of the rumors and gossips going on around her in her little town. She understands that a lot of people are surprised to see the amount of the wealth she has amassed in just a little time. But she wasn't surprised because the same people treated her with disdain when she was poor. So she knows that regardless of the situation, people will always talk. Mama BC, our friend who taught her the ropes of the business, wonders how she managed to have different outlets in a very short while. Whenever she asks her the secrets to her quick growth, Mama Tino will simply reply that it's all thanks to God. Unknown to Mama BC, Mama Tino joined a powerful cult who gave her a big mysterious pot for frying a puff puff. A powerful herbalist helped design the pot as soon as her business began to thrive because she doesn't want to go back to not making sales. The oil inside the pot never runs dry, and as the oil remains in the pot, she will always make sales. Mama BC is always surprised at her friend's success in the business because she doesn't have the spiritual eyes to see that her friend's frying oil never runs dry. At night, Martinu would stand at the front of her stall and sell her puff-puff to a different set of customers, the ghosts. The dead, drawn to her by some unseen force, would come to her stall and buy puff-puff with invisible coins. They would eat in silence, and when they left, they leave behind piles of uneaten puff-puff. Martinu would gather all the leftovers, clean up her stall, and prepare to sell the same puff-puff to her living customers the next morning. Our customers, unaware of the sinister origins of the food they so loved, praised our puff-puffs to the heavens. But little did they know that anyone who ate a puff-puff would be met with a string of misfortunes, from sudden illnesses to financial ruin, from broken homes to unexplained death. Those who regularly ate Mama Tinu's puff-puff found their lives falling apart, while Mama Tinu grew richer with every passing day. The only rule that Mama Tinu had to strictly follow was that she and her 5 children must never eat from the puff-puff. The price of a fortune was steep, but Mama Tinu was willing to pay it. As long as she and her children abstained from the puff-puff, their lives would remain untouched by the curse. For years, Mama Tinu's business flourished, and her customers kept coming back for more, oblivious to the source of their misfortunes. Until one day, a young and powerful man of God named Pastor Emeka arrived in the neighborhood. Pastor Emeka was known for his ability to see into the spiritual realm. He could see the dead and their interactions with the living, and was determined to cleanse the small town of the dark forces that plagued it. One evening, Pastor Emeka was coming back from vigil when he saw Mama Tinu at a stall, but what he saw horrified him. He saw the dead, pale, gaunt figures lining up at a stall, handing over ghostly coins and eating a puff-puff in heavy silence. He watched as she gathered the leftovers and packed them for sale to her customers the next morning. The scene was like something out of a nightmare. Shaken, Pastor Emeka knew he had to expose Mama Tinu for what she truly was. The next day, he approached her as she prepared to start a business. He told her that he is well aware of what she does at midnight, and he advised her to desist from such an evil act. Mama Tinu denied, of course, and accused the pastor of trying to ruin what she has built over the years. As Pastor Emeka stood in front of her stall, he started preaching to the crowd that gathered for their usual morning snack. Brothers and sisters, he said, do you know the darkness behind this puff puff? This woman, Mama Tinu, sells to the dead. She collects the food they leave behind and sells it to you. You are eating cursed food and it is bringing destruction into your lives. At first, the crowd were stunned into silence, but soon murmurs of disbelief spread through the crowd. How could this be? Mama Tinu was a kind woman, generous and always smiling. Surely this pastor was mistaken. Many people turned against Pastor Emeka, calling him a liar and accusing him of trying to ruin a good woman's business. Mama Tinu, with a charming smile, played the innocent victim, accusing the pastor of trying to defame her. "I'm just a simple puff-puff seller," she said sweetly, "trying to make a living for my children." But Mama Tino knew Pastor Maka was telling the truth, and she was determined to stop him. That night, she visited the herbalist who made her rich, and together they performed a dark ritual that left Pastor Emeka blind and crippled. Unable to see or walk, he could no longer warn people about Mama Tino. Her business continued to flourish, and Pastor Emeka was left helpless, with no one believing his story. However, as the saying goes, every day is for the thief, but one day is for the owner. That day came sooner than expected, and Mama Tino never imagined it. One fateful morning, as she was preparing her puff-puff, her youngest child, Ibidun, unknowingly took a piece of the puff-puff and ate it. Martino did not notice it until it was too late. As soon as Ibidun swallowed the puff-puff, her body convulsed, and within minutes she became deaf and dumb, unable to hear or speak. Mama Tino screamed in horror as she rushed out of a shop. A pot of oil splashed onto her legs, causing severe burns. She collapsed in pain, her legs scorched and useless. That same day, our three older sons, who were on their way back from school, were involved in a terrible car accident. All three survived, but were left with severe injuries that crippled them for life. In the span of a single day, Martinu's world came crashing down. Her children and husband were all either disabled or suffering. She knew this was no coincidence. The curse she had unleashed on others had finally come for her and her family. The news of what happened to Mama Tinu and her children spread like wildfire. Our once loyal customers abandoned her, terrified of the consequences of eating a puff-puff. Her wealth quickly dried up, and she was left with nothing but pain and regret. Desperate and broken, Mama Tinu finally confessed to the community. She revealed everything: the pact she made with the herbalist, the sales to the dead, and the curse that had ruined countless lives. The people were horrified, but they also pitied her. She had fallen victim to her own greed, and now she was paying the ultimate price. It was at that moment that Mama Bisi understood why different misfortunes had befallen her since she ate Mama Tinu's puff puff months ago. Pastor Emeka got it from being blind and crippled, and was called upon to pray for Mama Tinu and her family. Despite everything that happened to Emeka, he forgave her and prayed for healing. Though she and her family were forgiven, they would live with the consequences of the choices for the rest of their lives. And so, the curse of Mama Tinu's puff puff came to an end, but the lessons learned by the community lived on. Greed and evil may bring temporary wealth, but the price paid in the end is always greater than anyone could ever imagine. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my videos on my YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye.